Yeah, I think it's a good start to his rookie season, and ultimately, when you're having that level of success, doing your job, the challenge is to work to maintain that standard that you've started off doing. So, which he does. He's uh, you know an awesome guy. Really works at it, diligent in this whole process. So it's been a great start to his rookie season. Yeah, I mean, Sunday always has a different variable of the adrenaline that goes. But yeah, I mean, so far a lot of the guys that are coming back, it's been good to have them on the field working again. I think it poses a conversation, but at the same time, with as we have to talk about what they're doing, if it's going to force us out of what our intent was and what we're trying to do. But ultimately, it's a good challenge for us to really work through our process, working our rules, and if we trust our rules to our concepts, we should be all right. If conversely, if they're doing something they haven't done before, right, they're having to have the same issues of what are we doing presented. So I think there's, both sides of the coin to all that. But ultimately, that was the best part about here in camp with Vic and the multiplicity of what they do. It forced us to really have some of that communication early on. I think overall the offense does a good job together communicating what they're seeing, how they're trying to really get on the same page, connected, because that's the challenge of the season. It's each week, every defense is going to pose a different test, or they're going to either show what we've kind of seen before, or they could give us something that we haven't seen before. So I think ultimately our communication together is the most important thing we need to be on. Each week it kind of goes, it's along those lines. I mean, each week it's kind of, you assess your opponent, yourselves, where you're at, your anticipated guys that are going to be available for the game. What's the defense trying to do, right? How can we, use our matchup guys to attack the defense, for the width of it and the length of the field. So I think that each week the checklist is, as we're talking about, we're trying to hit, maybe one works in front of the other's there, but ultimately it's kind of the same stuff we've been talking about as far as how a lot of times if you don't expand the field, it allows them to compress, and the ability to not compress to compress us allows us to create space in the defense. And I think ultimately that's what offense is trying to do, and attack the space. Oh man, I think there's certain elements that go all the way back to the West Coast of Bill Walsh. So I mean, just as far as the original quick game, when they were in Cincinnati and they were struggling running the football. So how do you create a quick passing game to supplement run yardage? So that's where a lot of those components, those concepts started. So, I'd say for, my 5 years in New Orleans, Sean, same thing with West Coast origins. When I worked in Chicago, we were more of a blend with Peyton's system when we got with Foxy. John Gruden obviously was a West Coast guy, and then Joe Lombardi, we ran the Saints offense. So majority of my career has been spent in some forms of it. It's kind of like not everyone's aligned, but it's like a Thanksgiving dinner where all the cousins get together, and you're kind of like, when I got with Gruden, it kind of connected a couple things to New Orleans, and you're going like, got it. All right. So, because John kept a lot of it. I mean, when he left Holmgren, he kept his version intact, so it was the closest back to Green Bay. Or when Sean worked with Gruden, and then he went from there to New York, so and then Dallas, there's some variants. So it's like, oh yeah, well, it's like you start off and you get this one, you're like, got it. And you go to the next one, you're like, oh. And then Gruden would do a great job explaining the origins to stuff all the way back to San Francisco with Walsh. So it was like football heaven. Like I'd sit there like, so that's why we do that. And then now here, there's just that background. It was really helpful because there's so much the core of what we do. It all really originates back to the origins of Bill Walsh. Well, I think it goes back to just the off season when we started that process, creating the versatility for the linemen. Multiple guys playing guard, multiple guys playing center, center tackle, or excuse me, guard tackle. The course of the season, there are many unknowns to it as far as how is it going to play out. So us having the versatility to move guys in multiple spots has been very helpful. So with what he's been able to do for that, at first time playing center, and then you got to go on the road and do it twice and handle all the communication on that. I mean,